Hi, my name is Ron Pare and you're watching the Old Bay District Build. This is a project that is funded by people just like you. Patreons fuel this channel with inspiration, and I then return the favor by building scale models and miniature terrain scenes. Becoming a patron is as easy as chipping in $1, and no, this is no money grab. All funds are used to support the building of more fine-scale modeling videos. In fact, because of our amazing patrons, we have a 20-inch tall Ferris wheel that is on its way for our next project, which is another 3x5 with a carnival and a small town modeled inside it. If you are entertained in any way watching these videos, I ask that you either become a patron or check out our sponsor, Helican Focus, at modelersguild.com/HF. Thanks for watching. Before we go any further, I got a suggestion on a forum out there that people really don't comment on my threads. Thanks, guys. Thanks for that. But I got a comment, and I figured I'd do a little list of my supplies at the beginning of the video for people who don't watch my other videos. Like, I know, too much content. But, you know, here's a list of the materials I use. Mostly the glues and the screws and all that stuff. In this episode, we turn the module around so we can work inland. And before I get started on anything else, I want to pull out my proto paint from Rapido and paint this track slag brown with my airbrush. Now, it's a nice product that Rapido has put out, and it's acrylic, made for your airbrush. But that doesn't mean you can't use it with the normal brush. Just think outside the box a bit, would ya? After painting the track so that it had the rail brown look to it, I used up the rest of the paint in the airbrush to kind of mold or mark out the areas of the road, just to get a visual reference of what we're looking at. It's a lot easier to see how things come into play as you start coloring these things out. We're next going to move on to finishing the road crossing over the tracks. Because this is not the easiest thing to do for many people. I've seen it done in many different ways, and most people just plain grab dirt and throw it on along the tracks, and then use a set of trucks to run through to get your wheel marks into it. But that really isn't the way we should do it. Recently, I watched Ken Patterson do this exact same thing on his layout. However, some of the things that I do is a little bit different, like using foam board as the entrance and the exit to the road. However, there is a transition from my foam board up to the track, so we have to use more foam board to kind of make a little ramp. And I glue these pieces on, not profiled or shaved in any way, because what I want to do is cut them after with a nice sharp razor blade. Foam board is really an amazing tool, and I've been using it since, I don't know, about 2010 as a major component in most of my modeling. And sometimes, yes, it does look way out of scale. It's a little too big for a curb. But you know what? A lot of things are way out of scale in model railroading. However, today we're using the foam board to cross the tracks. Now, not the middle of the tracks, we're going to use some actual wood for that. More on that later. But right now, all we want to do is lay a ramp going in and going out of the tracks. Now, before we add dirt to our road, we want to paint it our earth color. Now, we're not painting this our earth color merely because the stark white bugs the hell out of me. It's because when we put our dirt on in the next step, we don't want any white showing through. And I don't want to go back and paint all those white spots after I put my dirt on, because it's gonna look janky. Do you like that word, janky? Well, your layout doesn't like the word janky, and everybody who looks at it will also think to themselves, look at that janky looking road. Now, after our foam panels have been glued on and are dried to the layout, it's time to start adding dirt to the top of it, because this foam core really doesn't have the texture of a road. It's kind of a little all pitty, you know, kind of like your face when you're a teenager. I know, I was that kid. So the type of dirt that I'm using on this road is what I call my, what the fuck do I call it? Silt. Which is something that I call silt dirt. Oh, I'm making a video on it, and it's kind of hard to show in a video what you're actually talking about, so I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. However, it is the finest dirt that I can make, and by saying that, it's not like the best dirt I can make. It is really, really small. I'm talking powder dirt. So we're using the powder dirt to cover the road in a nice and even layer. We don't want to have hills and valleys. We just want to have a nice even layer to glue down onto the foam. Now, gluing this road down isn't that hard. It's really all about I don't know what to say about it. You know, I think of things in a very complicated way. I know this because I've got family who've all told me, Ron, you're thinking about this way too much. So, it's hard to explain sometimes why I do the things I do. I used to lay down a great big thick layer of glue, and then I used to put my dirt on top of it. But I don't do that no more. Not at all. All I do now is I use my scenic cement that is 50-50 watered down weld bond with a little bit of dish soap. And you know, now I'm starting to change my dish soap to glycerin. But you don't have to do that. Dish soap works fine. I'm just testing glycerin in everything I do at the moment, and it's something that I'm doing. I'm sorry. It is something that I do. Okay? You can only find out how things work or don't work in one easy way: by messing it up or becoming a hero. And I'm that guy. That's the way I do things. So the way we're going to glue this dirt to this foam is the foam is very porous, and when we spray water onto it, it's going to soak on through. The water's going to embed itself into the foam. And what that water is doing is it's sitting there waiting for you to put your glue on top of the dirt. And it's going to take that glue and it's going to say, hey, come on with me. And it's going to pull it all down. It's going to pull it through the dirt, penetrating the dirt so that it glues solid. But also that water pulls all that glue, the excess glue, into the foam, man, and anchors it all on board. And if you use enough glue, yeah, a lot of glue, you'll actually make sure that this thing never ever cracks on you. It's just some experience. It's stuff that you got to try on your own, and you know, you'll find out what's too much and what's not enough as time goes on. I find that if I put too much glue on, that my road kind of has a sheen to it and never ever really looks dry. Kind of looks kind of dark and gluey. You know what I mean? I don't know. But when you get the consistency right, your road will dry up and look beautiful, especially with silt. I'll show you that recipe sometime. It's easier than you may think. Now let this glue dry for a day or two. Don't touch it. Don't muck with it. Don't stick your finger into it. Because if you do, it's gonna crack up. And then you're gonna say to me, Ron, my road cracked up. And I'm gonna say, well, could you keep your fingers off of it? And you're gonna be like, no, I didn't, sorry. Just, I don't know. You could take my advice. And rest assured that if I'm not saying that this is the first time I'm ever doing this, that I've probably screwed it up many, many times in the past. And you should feel rest assured that using the techniques that I've done over and over again, use them as the gospel. We'll make a book for it. Now, the next technique is a technique that you've probably never ever seen before on a model railroading video ever. And the reason for this is it's really old school. I'm talking so old school that, you know, even the old buggers who make videos on YouTube today don't even do this. This is like old school. Now, to find the recipe for making vinegar and steel wool stain, I think it's called iron acetate. I don't know what it's called. But it's made out of steel wool, and what you do is you dissolve it in your vinegar. I've got a video for it, and it's called Homemade Stains for Your Model Railroad. No, I'm not drunk in that video like the guy commented down below. I'm just happy. I get that gleam in my eyes. I'm all inspired. I get worked up about this stuff. I'm not drunk. I'm drunk on art. Fool. I drink at night. So, the video that you're watching right now is sped up to 2 times speed. The process that you're watching is actually taking about 15 minutes to do. Well, the camera shut off at 15 minutes. I imagine it took maybe 20 minutes, let's say. So, what happens here is all I have to do is put a wee little bit of my stain onto the wood, and it immediately starts activating the tannins. So the combination of the colors just start attacking each other, and what you get is a style of red wood. Now, I love this stuff, and if you mix a little bit of ink and alcohol with it, or your MIG washes, the black stuff, that's amazing coat to come after the steel and the vinegar and steel stain. There's got to be a better name for that stuff, man. I'm telling you. The thing is it turns really, really dark really quickly, and it's a stain. It's not a paint sitting on top of your wood. It embeds itself right into the wood. And then when you come back with your ink and alcohol or your MIG washes, like I said earlier, it really penetrates as well and intermingles with that red and gives you a real nice, interesting color for your wood. Perfect for a railroad crossing, if you ask me. Now, I'm using crazy glue to glue this stuff down. However, you know, you can use Gorilla Glue, which is like permanent. And, you know, the more I use Gorilla Glue, the more I like it. Because, you know, when you first use this the foaming stuff, Gorilla Glue, it goes out of control and you hate its guts. But after you figure out how to control the foam, it's all good. Okay, I think we're gonna end this episode around this spot because we really want our silt road dirt to dry completely. You know, we don't want to start adding layer upon layer of glue and having lower layers be kind of we just don't want it to laminate or anything like that. So what I want this to do is I want it to dry completely over at least 24 hours. To cut away the path for the wheel sets of our rolling stock and engines, I used a razor blade, but you can do is what Ken Patterson did and use a hacksaw blade. My crossing being on a curve, it would work with a hacksaw blade. It's just I used a razor blade instead. But in our next episode, we're going to add some more textures to the road. We're going to use our normal gravel style dirt. And I'm going to put that on the side of the roads. We'll see that next episode. We're also going to start adding some vegetation. We've got to add some undulations to the ground. Thanks, Jason. And we're going to put grass on top of it. I'm going to have to show you how we use Martin Welberg's scenery and stuff grass sheets. Because you really don't just plop these sheets down. You got to cut them up. You got to plan them out so that they sit properly. And it's kind of a trick. Now I want to thank you for watching this video. This video is made possible with the support of people just like you. Sure, I use a lot of free scratch building supplies, but I also use some of the best products available today. Our next project is framed around the Jupiter Ferris wheel. By far the best available model for that project. This is only possible through your support. And if you like these videos, make sure they continue by contributing $1 or more at patreon.com/Ron Pare. And if you're not into that, we also have a sponsor that gives you 20% off the best photography program ever, and that's a lifetime of updates. Extreme focus is best done by photo stacking, and nothing makes it easier to stack your photos than Helicon Focus. Even Ken Patterson uses Helicon Focus, and so can you. Get 20% off a lifetime of updates today at www.modelersguild.com/HF. And I want to thank Helicon Focus for the support of this show and my patrons. Thanks, guys. You're all champs. So that's it. We'll talk to you next time. I hope you liked the show, and maybe share it somewhere. Or if you see it on a forum somewhere, I only posted on one forum, maybe say hi. Wouldn't hurt, would you? That wouldn't hurt. That shouldn't hurt. Seems like it does. I don't know. Talk to you later, guys.